Welcome back to the Ripewave audio community, where we explore together all types of home audio systems from hi-fi to home theater. My name is John, and for this video, we will continue our top AV processor separates between $5,000 and $10,000 series, which support immersive audio formats for at least 12 channels. For part 4, we are focusing on the physical characteristics of these processors. As with our under $5,000 series, we once again ask the question, can you buy immersive AV processors by the pound or kilo? If you missed part 1, where we outline the main criteria for channels, format support, and room calibration, or part 2, where we examine the DACs these processors utilize, or part 3, where we describe the connectivity from Ethernet to internet streaming features, I have provided the links for your convenience in the description. For those that viewed the other parts of this series, you are aware that we are researching AV processors so Ripewave Audio can make a more educated decision when we replace our 5.1 channel Sony TA-E9000ES processor with a new immersive processor. We selected a list of processors we are examining from a filtered down set from the 160 models, 27 brands within the Ripewave Audio database. By setting the criteria for models which are still actively promoted on the brand websites between $5,000 and $10,000, processor separate, non-receivers, and immersive, the pool of candidates dropped to 8 models from 7 brands: Acurus, Anthem, AudioControl, JBL Synthesis, Lygndorf, McIntosh, and NAD. With the focus of part 1 on the number of channels, formats, and supported room calibration software, the Anthem AVM 90 came out as our first round pick. In part 2, the DACs, we selected the Acurus Muse for that processor's overall 110 dB signal-to-noise rating and use of differential circuitry for the front 4 channels. In part 3, the Anthem AVM 90 was selected once again for its support of eARC, Dolby Vision, IMAX Enhance, lots of claimed integration support, and ecosystems. Now, I did miss a few items for Acurus in that last part that were clearly presented on the Muse's fact sheet. In particular, the Muse officially supports the following control systems: Crestron, Savant, Josh AI, Control 4, Elan, RTI, and URC. The Muse also supports HDR10 Plus and Rec 2020 Today. Thank you, Joey, for pointing out those items as well as providing further clarification on the current HDMI board used in the Muse, which is 2.1 and eARC ready. It is comforting to know that not only will features be unlocked with a software update, the board is also field upgradable to minimize downtime. With those additions, the Muse is certainly among the leaders within the connectivity category. Now on to part 4 and the physical characteristics. Should you buy an immersive AV processor by the pound or kilo? In the under $5,000 series, we concluded that while mass can suggest quality, we understand that middle and lightweight models can still deliver a premium sonic experience if executed wisely. It will be interesting to see if we observe the same at this higher price point, where quality is to be expected regardless of the product's weight. Let's now start our physical comparison. Unlike the last series, we will continue our channel count price sorting instead of switching to a weight-based sorting. In general, we find the front aesthetic comes down mostly to personal preference. The following is presented because it is fun to look at audio gear. The looks and weight may have marginal impact on the resulting sound experience, but they are items that can fire up emotions and improve your overall attachment to a processor. As a reminder, the vintage Sony TA-E9000ES we are moving from was well crafted using quality materials, including its hefty, stress-free linear wrap core power transformer, which brought its weight to 28.2 pounds, 12.8 kilograms. This unit is still performing well with a low noise floor. Now on to the current $5,000 to $10,000 field. The NAD M17v2i has a solid appearance and uses a modern color touchscreen to navigate the on-unit menus. We appreciate the clean look, keeping a single knob for the volume while relying on the touchscreen for all other functions, but feel the lack of a headphone jack is a step too far. We include the rear photos of these units in this part of the series so you can observe the ergonomics of the layout of the I/O, but we will cover the I/O in the next part of this series. The NAD layout is clean and somewhat dictated by the module design, which are removable for repair or replacement with a more capable module, such as an HDMI networking module, which is currently a 2.0b compliant design. The NAD remote is likely the simplest and smallest of all the processors we will encounter, and provides no direct access to individual sources. Furthermore, its stubbiness does not look like it would fit well in your hand. Given that most will opt for some form of integration control, this remote will fall into the category of, if all else fails, break the glass and use the included remote. Inside the M17 is just as clean. Certainly, care was taken with the circuitry design. NAD does not publish the power consumption, but we can see a large linear core style transformer located on the front right, which helps us understand the weight of 24 pounds, 10.9 kilograms. The Lyngdorf MP-40 takes a different approach to clean design. While the NAD has smooth, rounded metal corners, the Lygndorf crisply executes each corner at 90 degrees. The face is flat with a semi-transparent element on the same plane as the other faceplate surfaces. The only items that protrude are the volume and source menu knobs. The latter appears a little small for my liking, despite cosmetically being balanced. Sadly, no headphone jack on the MP-40 either. The rear of the Lygndorf forgoes the black and white color coding of inputs and outputs seen on many models today. The remote is elegantly designed. While simplistic, it is long and thin, which is in complete contrast with the short NAD remote. We think the Lygndorf design is far more comfortable, but it too lacks direct input buttons. Despite being elegant, it too may live in the land of misfit remotes in favor of an integrated solution. We have yet to find an interior photo of the MP-40, but we can imagine an uncluttered space, with presumably a switch mode power supply, given that this is the lightest model north of $5,000, weighing in at 14.8 pounds, 6.7 kilograms. Although Lygndorf does not specify the power consumption either, our guess it will be on the modest side. On the other end of the spectrum enters the McIntosh MX123. At 7 5/8 inches and 19.4 centimeters high, this monster is tall and counters McIntosh's $5,000 entry, the MX100, which cuts the size down to its minimum. McIntosh follows through with their consistent and timeless design language, regardless of size, something that most McIntosh owners cherish as part of the brand's lore. While other brands have introduced a large high-res color screen, McIntosh delivers their standard pre-positioned and fixed mode indicators, along with a simple 2-line dot matrix display, and it works for them. The buttons are semi-industrial and easy to locate. Now, I do wonder why McIntosh felt it necessary to plaster all the technology badges onto the faceplate. I would think at this level and their reputation and with their audience, they would be beyond the level of advertising. Again, no headphone jack. The MX123 manual does mention headphones, but only to suggest using one of the HDMI zone outputs to feed a dedicated headphone amplifier. Now, I can understand the purist approach, yet they include an onboard phono stage, so perhaps that is the next to go. Like the approach of Lygndorf, the rear panel has not adopted any the color codes for the I/O. The remote mirrors the remote that is found on the Marantz AV8805, which this model's design is based on. It is backlit, provides a direct source access, and includes a one-line LCD status, which may not be that useful, but it makes it appear more active. The McIntosh edition has gold fonts, which is different from the white used by Marantz. Side by side with the AV8805, which the McIntosh 123 is derived from, I believe that McIntosh exhibits the elevated class the extra $3,500 commands. To me, hiding buttons and displays behind a door is not a benefit. After some searching, I was able to locate an inside shot of the MX123. The large linear power supply is prominent front and center and crowns this MX123 as the heaviest of this group, weighing in at 31 pounds, 14 kilograms, with the unit consuming 75 watts. Comparing side by side with the Marantz AV8805, which weighs only slightly less, we can see how the designs are the same in some areas, such as with the digital and HDMI sections, and different, particularly with the analog and power sections. The Marantz uses a toroidal design. While respectable, I would guess the McIntosh supply is superior, despite not being of the fashionable toroid type. Note that the MX123 only consumes 75 watts versus 90 watts that are devoured by the AV8805. With the Acurus Muse, we jump back into the simplistic modern design language applied to a low profile. From a usable perspective, I love the way Acurus has boiled down display elements into the most intuitive infographics of any processor I have seen. We will explore their approach further in Part 6 when we cover the user interfaces. While I realize that the Muse is their entry-level offering, I still feel a physical volume knob is crucial to me. So many times when I need to quickly lower the volume to answer a call, I can't find the remote. I take comfort in being able to run over to the unit and rotate the knob back down to 0. So having to step or hold a soft button, or even if they include a mute soft button, it's not as quick and certain as what a physical knob can deliver in those situations. For that, Acurus has the AC4, which is the next price point. Oh yes, once again, no headphone jack. The remote is another use in case the integrated solution fails, and it gives you a fallback, but at least it provides direct access source buttons and has a few other items, more than just what you need to get by. It seems they don't bother to create a unique label for the Muse remote, as the manual shows an image of the remote with the AC4 model name. To keep the Muse slim, Acurus provides some of the outputs through a DB9 connector and adapter cable. Points we can cover more on in Part 5. Looking inside the Muse, we feel it would not be hard to execute a field replacement of a board when Acurus issues an upgrade that you can perform at home without sending it out to an authorized center. Certainly a great way to minimize downtime. We see also a power supply section, and we're guessing it is a switch mode power supply given its compact size and the fact that the model is a middleweight at 23 pounds, 10.4 kilograms. Power consumption is rated at 70 watts. The JBL Synthesis SDP-55 is another modern aesthetic. Like the McIntosh, the technology logos adorn the faceplate, but it's more acceptable on this somewhat commercial theater-like design. What we like is the inclusion of a headphone jack. What we don't like is that it's only an 1/8-inch, 3.5mm jack. The SDP-55 uses a large LCD screen, but it may only be monochromatic, as I have yet to see anything but white images and characters shown on the display. The back of the SDP-55 is standard Harman layout, and the backlit remote is standard Harman issue as well. Nice to see the continued use of direct source access buttons on the remote. We don't have an interior photo of the SDP-55, but we suspect they are using a toroidal power supply with its midweight of 23.4 pounds, 10.6 kilograms, and power consumption of 50 watts. The models from the other Harman brand, AudioControl, only slightly differ from the JBL Synthesis model. The technology logos remain, but are more tastefully applied as they're more subtle in their dark gray on lighter gray presentation. The blue LED glows around the knob and other places are a nice enhancement, and the upgrade to a full 1/4-inch 6.35mm phono jack for the headphones is right on target with what we are looking for. The large LCD display is also present. The manual for the X7 shows some color menus for that display. Perhaps the JBL version also is color, with just the manual printed in black and white. Perhaps a community member can clarify in the comments. Again, the standard Harman remote is used with just the silkscreen brand change. The back of the X7 introduces the white in, black out color coding not used on the JBL variant. but the layout is shared. The power consumption of the X7 jumps to 90 watts, and the added weight over the SDP-55 totals 27.1 pounds, 12.3 kilograms for the X7. Again, we suspect a toroidal power supply is used. There is nothing different to report on the Maestro X9 over the Maestro X7, aside from being priced $3,000 more, which we understand to be justified mainly by its use of upgraded ESS DACs. On the surfaces, everything is the same, even its weight and dimensions. Having interior shots to compare the circuitry would certainly help. Having covered the SDP-55, X7, and X9, which are between $5,000 and $10,000, thought it would be good and interesting to compare against the sub-$5,000 Harman models, namely the $3,499 Lexicon MC10 and the $4,500 Arcam AV40. We understand that all these models share technology, and the differences are likely more subtle than their $6,100 price differential. First, all the remotes are the same. Now ignore that I don't have full color photos for all of them. The Lexicon, Arcam, and JBL Synthesis models all weigh the same and all have a 50-watt power supply. The AudioControl models weigh more, which can be attributed, perhaps entirely, by the use of a larger 90-watt power supply. While there are slight variations in the I/O on the back, the layout is all very similar. Inside, we at least have photos of the Lexicon and Arcam models, and suspect that the JBL Synthesis and AudioControl variants are not that much different, albeit we hope we are wrong, so as to make the price difference easier to explain. We have been searching for comparative reports in forums, etc., but we haven't found much to bring more clarity to the way these models are priced with such a wide variance. The only comments we've seen support how these units are similar aside from the DACs they use and the differences in their market channels. In the Anthem marketing literature, the AVM90 and the current leading model in the sub-$5,000 category, the AVM70, have a real clean display. Since the release of the AVM70, and with other competing models that use a similar large LCD display, the quality of the display does not seem to possess the same clean quality in the photos and videos taken by reviewers. What I observed watching the reviewers' videos is the black areas of the screen do not blend well into the background as in the marketing literature. What you see is a somewhat illuminated black rectangle the size of the LCD element. This slide shows an image I captured from Barrett's Spec of Tech's video on the AVM70 from January 30th of this year. Hopefully that brightness in the background on the display is something that Anthem can adjust via a firmware update to be less noticeable. But certainly the press photo is more appealing and could be a marketing mock-up. Like the two AudioControl models, the AVM90 is physically identical to the lower-cost AVM70, including the remote that's used, albeit the rear panel of the AVM90 has two more outputs. I will point out that the quarter-inch 6.35mm headphone jacks on the Anthem AVM90. Thank you, Anthem, for that. I particularly like the inconspicuous bottom right placement of that port. The remote is backlit, but you don't have direct source access buttons. Anthem has yet to release specifications on the AVM90, and now its release date has been pushed from early 2021 to this fall. The AVM 70, which is shipping, has had its share of bugs, and we feel it is good that Anthem is putting the AVM 90 release off a bit until they can stabilize the AVM 70 and ensure that the AVM 90's launch is less problematic. We were able to find some photos on the forums of a pre-release version of the AVM 90, or maybe it was the 70, not very clear, but it is enough to give you a sense for its design, showing the use of a toroidal power supply. As with the previous series, I have collected up all the models into a common view for side-by-side comparison. To me, the interior design of the NAD appears to be the cleanest of the group. The power supply, while not a toroid, in the McIntosh MX123 appears to be the most robust and likely the heaviest, given that the MX123 has the heaviest overall weight of 31 pounds, 14 kilograms. Looking at all the front panels, I can see where each has its audience. The NAD is robust, the Lygndorf is a refined modern design, the McIntosh is a classic, the Muse is modern progressive, and Harman models have a commercial cinema feel, while the Anthem seems to borrow cues from the more expensive Lygndorf design, perhaps more functional but less refined. Again, we're showing all the remotes on one table for comparison, but honestly, at this level, most won't be using these remotes. They'll be using whatever is provided through their custom integration setup. Based on the front panel looks alone, I might guess that the McIntosh and Lygndorf models were the most expensive models, and I wouldn't be wrong. I do think the NAD's use of material stands out and looks more expensive than similarly priced models from AudioControl and Acurus, but the Acurus has a special value. While its size and lack of a volume knob perhaps keeps the Acurus from appearing in the most expensive group, its display is so well executed that element could live within the top tier. And it does with their AC4 flagship. From a physical standpoint, the Lygndorf looks the part, but light processor models still concern me, and this one is even lighter than the 17-pound, 7.7 kilogram McIntosh MX100, which was the lightest among the sub $5,000 processors. Generally speaking, this collection of processors looks more sophisticated than the sub $5,000 models. I maintain the position that weight isn't necessarily the best criteria, but quality components and chassis design can contribute to increased weight. The JBL Synthesis design I like the least of this group. I wouldn't go as far to say it's bad, just not preferred over the others. The AudioControl Maestro X7 and X9 design I like the most out of all the Harman models. The NAD look is real nice, and their touchscreen feature is something I might like as well. I struggle with models without a headphone jack, but it might be something I'm willing to live without. This round is a tough call. I still like Anthem design of their AVM series, but within the $5,000 to $10,000 level, they face steeper competition for modern design, and they have perhaps copied a bit from Lygndorf, as I mentioned earlier. For this round, it is, again, a tough call. For build quality, the interior shots are not available for all, NAD, Marantz, and Acurus all look good inside from what I can see. For classic looks, nothing other than the McIntosh makes an attempt, so it's in a league of its own. For inventiveness, my choice is Acurus. And for modern, I select Lygndorf over Anthem, which was the one that won for the last series. These are all so different. I don't think I can award a clear winner for the first time. However, I do think there are physical elements that could come into play when we select the overall pick for this series. So let's remember these things, and we can perhaps we'll bring them back when we have part 7, when we pick the best for the 5,000 to 10,000 range. When it comes to physical aspects, it really is a personal decision, and when you are best to follow your own emotions on. If you are in the market for an AV processor, what physical aspects are important to you? Do you judge by the pound or kilogram? How do you feel about linear versus switch mode power supplies? Do you have any interior photos to share with us? That feedback would be useful to the Ripewave audio community. Furthermore, if you enjoyed this video and are interested in enhancing your audio experience, please like and subscribe to this Ripewave audio community, and be sure to select the bell icon so you'll be notified as soon as the next video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.